Section 2.7 is on ratios and proportions. So ratio, for most of you, is not anything new. A ratio is when you compare two quantities using division. When you're comparing two things using division. So there are three ways to compare things using division. As a fraction, using a colon, or using the word two. There are three ways to compare it. So here's an example of how something like that would work. So let's say, at least in this class, there are 15 boys and 8 girls. 15 boys, 8 girls. So there are three ways to write this ratio. You can write it as a fraction, 15 over 8. You can write it using a colon, 15 colon 8. Or you can write it using the word 2, 15 2. 8. So those are the three ways that they can be written. Now the way that we're going to use the most is a fraction. So since you're writing it as a fraction, you always reduce. Always reduce. So for the three that we have up here, you can't reduce any of those. But if you can reduce, you reduce. If you can reduce, you always reduce. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to practice setting up a ratio. Setting up ratios based off of what's going on. So, for this problem, suppose that you counted the number of cars in the HF parking lot and categorized them according to color. The result is in the table on the right. Find each ratio. So, we compare them in the order that they gave it to us. We compare them in the order that they were given. So, example 1. Find the ratio of silver cars to black cars. Silver cars to black cars. So we look at our table to help us out. There's 15 silver cars, 24 black cars. So your ratio is 15 over 24. So remember, we always reduce. So, what can I divide out of 15 and 24? What can I divide out of 15 and 24? 3. Divide everything by 3. We get 5 over 8. Always reduce. Not reducing is bad. Questions on example number 1? do another example. Ratio of black cars to blue cars. So we already know from example 1, there are 24 black cars. Blue cars, there are 6 of them. So your ratio is 24 over 6. So, can we reduce 24 over 6?
Yeah.
What is it reduced to? So, what is it reduced to? Okay. So you gotta think about what will divide into 24 and into 6? Somebody can help him out. We can divide by 6. So that's 4 over 1, or just 4. If you have questions, gotta ask. I can't read your mind. So let's do one more example of this type. Ratio of red cars to all the cars in the parking lot. So, red cars is 8. How am I going to get all of the cars in the parking lot? What do I need to do to get all of the cars?
Add them up.
Add everything up. So this is 8, 15, 24, 15, and 6. So what does that add up to?
I got 71.
You should get 71. So your ratio is 8 over 71, and that doesn't reduce. That doesn't reduce. So, that's practice with setting up ratios. Any questions before we continue? Yeah, great job to those of you who are actively taking notes, doing what you need to do so you can be successful. My goal is to be able to, those of you who have your cameras off, some of you all I trust, and I trust that you know that you're doing what you're supposed to do because you've shown it. Some of you have built that trust. It's easy to build it. You gotta do what you gotta do. Heartbeat. Heartbeat, now we're going to look at a rate. A rate. So notice with the first 3 examples, we were comparing cars with cars. Cars with cars. A ratio, you're comparing 2 things that have the same unit. When you compare 2 things with different units, a ratio with different units is called a rate. It's called a rate. Now, so when your parent goes to work, if they make a certain amount an hour, that's called a rate. So for example, if they make $21 an hour, that's a rate. And that's actually a special type of rate called a unit rate. So a unit rate is when you have a denominator of 1. So let's look at the example that's below. LeBron James scored 1,698 points in 67 games this season. So if you're looking at the rate, that is 1,698 over 67 points, games. If you want to make it a unit rate, you simply divide them out. 1698 divided by 67, so that's 25 points per one game. Or you can write it as 25 points per game. So to get a unit rate, you just need to divide out. You just divide it. Now, just as a disclaimer, no, I didn't pick LeBron James because the Lakers just won the championship. My favorite player is actually retired, and that's Kobe. Yes, he plays for the Lakers, but I just picked LeBron James because he's currently playing. Kobe and Tim Duncan are actually my two favorite players. And Jordan. So let's practice finding a unit rate. So after we do these 3 examples, we'll take a short break and solve proportions. Give you a chance to stretch. Alright. So example 1. An ostrich can run 174 feet in 3 seconds. Find the unit rate. So in this case, 174 feet in 3 seconds. 174 feet divided by 3 seconds. You want to know how many feet can this animal run in 1 second? You want to know what he can run in 1 second. So that means 58. It's 58. How did you get 58? You divide it. You divide it. 58 feet per second. And that's doing 174 divided by 3. So all of what you see is showing your work. That's showing your work. So just to get the unit rate, you divide them? So you just have to divide them to get to your unit rate. Okay. So what you see up there is showing your work. If you just put 58, then the next question I'm going to ask is, how did you get it? I don't know how you got it. So if you don't put your work, then you technically didn't tell me how you got the answer. For all I know, you could have copied off somebody. You could have photomapped it. So you get no credit for it. So you have to show your work. So just like Amari said, when he asked for the reiteration, you are divided. You are divided. That's all you're doing. So let's do example 2. It costs $6.30 to mail a 6-pound package. Find the cost to mail a package per pound. So example 1 is the same. $6.30 $6.30 to mail a 6-pound package. You want to know how much is it going to cost to mail a 1-pound package. Same rules apply. So how much does it cost? 1.05. 1.05. So it's $1.05. So 630 divided by 6. $1.05 per pound. So again, not difficult. You're only doing one thing. Divide it. So let's do example 3. Eric read 150 pages in 1 hour. What is Eric's reading rate per minute? So he reads 150 pages out of a book in 1 hour. I want to know how many pages he can read in 1 minute. You're going to divide by 60. Now, where did you get 60 from? You are correct.
Because 60 minutes is an hour.
There you go. So, 1 hour is the same thing as 60 minutes. So you need to change this to 150 pages over 60 minutes. Now, you can answer their question. 150 divided by 60 is what?
2.5.
2.5. So this man can read 2.5 pages in 1 minute. So he can read pretty fast. I can't read 2.5 pages in a minute. Primarily because I want to take my time and really understand what's going on. So, questions 1, 2, and 3 for take short break. So, part C, solving proportion. So a proportion is an equation where 2 ratios are equal. 2 ratios are equal. So 6 over 10, 3 over 5. 2 ratios are equal. Now, when you're solving a proportion, one of those 4 parts will be missing. One of those will have a variable. It can be any of the 4 parts. So to solve a proportion, we cross multiply. Cross multiply fractions and solve the remaining equation. Cross multiply fractions, solve the remaining equation. So notice sometimes you'll have variables in one place, sometimes you'll have variables in multiple places. So let's start off with an easy example, make it more difficult. So, example 1. You have 6 over x equals 9 over 24. So if anyone needs me to make it bigger, please say so now. I'll do that. Alright, looks like everyone's good then, so let's do it, example 1. So for example 1, 6 over x equals 9 over 24. The first thing we need to do is to cross multiply. Cross multiply, you're making an x. So 6 would multiply times 24. And 9 would multiply times x. So we have 6 times 24. Change this to out of the highlighter. 6 times 24 equals 9 times x. Notice that whatever has the variable in it, I'm putting it in parentheses. If it has a variable, it's going in parentheses. You'll see why in a second. What's 6 times 24? 144. 9 times x means we are distributing. 9 times x is 9x. So this is a pretty simple equation to solve out. What do we do to both sides? Oh, 144 divided by 9. And that should give you 16. Do I get 16? If not, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me what's right. So x equals 16. Say that louder, please, because I can't hear you.
So you're just cross multiplying, and then whatever you do that, it will then get your answer from.
So you cross multiply, and then you work to try to get the variable by itself. So in this case, all you have to do is divide by 9. Now, they won't always be that simple. It won't always be that simple. Like example number 2. Example number 2, a little bit more involved. X plus 3 divided by 6 equals 5 over 4. So we still cross multiply. So x plus 3 has to get multiplied by what? 4. So that means 5 has to get multiplied times 6. So x plus 3 times 4 equals 5 times 6. So again, remember, x plus 3 is in parentheses because the variable is there. Variable is there. Any questions before we continue? Okay, let's keep going. So, 5 times 6, that's easy. That's 30. What do I do on the left-hand side? You distribute. So, if I distribute, I have 4x plus 3 equals 30. Is that right? Did I distribute that right?
Now you multiply the 4 and the 3, too.
You gotta multiply the 4 and the 3 too. So if you're gonna distribute, you gotta do it with everything. 4 times x, 4x, 4 times 3, that's 12. Now, we can start solving. Now we start solving. Alright, so what do we do first?
Subtract 12.
So we're going to subtract 12. Drop out. So 4x equals 18. Then what?
Divide by 4.
Then we divide by 4. Look at all this good work that we're showing to verify how we got our answer. Because this is how we get full credit. 18 over 4, can that be reduced?
No.
I don't know is okay. So, can we divide something out? So it's 4.5, but what if I want to leave that as a fraction? What is that as a fraction? 9 over 2. So 9 over 2, or 4.5. So, don't sleep on that. You might get told, leave your answer as a fraction. Now, that way, you got to know how to give it as a fraction. We've dealt with fractions before. We don't run from fractions around here. So if you don't know how to work with fractions, come on in and I'll teach you how to work with some fractions. But if the problem says leave it as a fraction and you get it as a decimal, you can be assured it's like PS5 is coming out next month. Dash. I'm marking it off. Questions before we do 3 and 4? Three and 4, and we almost done. Round and third, and heading for home. Alright, so example 3. If x plus 3 over 7 equals x over 4. What am I going to multiply x plus 3 by? 4. So x plus 3 gets multiplied times 4. X gets multiplied times 7. Now, if you're a person that doesn't like the number behind the parentheses, you can always put it in front of the parentheses. If you don't like the number behind it, you can always put it in front of it. That doesn't change what you're going to have to do. Alright, so let's solve it. What do we do on the left-hand side? Distribute. Excellent job. 4x plus 12. And the right-hand side, we're going to distribute again. 7x. this. We got variables on both sides. We just finished doing something like that not too long ago. So that means my next question is, which variable is smaller? Four. So 4x is smaller, so we subtract 4x on both sides. Drops out. So 12 equals 3x. 12 equals 3x. What do we do to finish the problem? Divide by 3. Teach mine. Good job. Tom has been doing the thing too. 12 divided by 3 gives us 1 more problem before preview the quiz and get you on up out of here. Alright, so example 4. So for those people who have already started this problem, that's the answer that you should get if you did it correctly. This is the answer that we should get if we do it correctly. So let's do example 4. 2n minus 1 over 5, 3n plus 14 over 9. 2n minus 1 has a variable going in parentheses. What am I multiplying it by? 9. Equals 3n plus 14 has to be multiplied by 5. So cross multiplying, you're making an x. Cross multiplying, you're making an x. Alright, so let's start solving. So we have parentheses on both sides. That means we need to do what? Distribute. Distribute on both sides. So 9 times 2, 18n. 9 times negative 1, negative 9. 5 times 3, 15. 5 times 14, 7. So here we go again. We got variables on both sides. Which variable is smaller? 15. So that's the one that's going to move. So that's the one that's going to move. Subtract 15 on both sides. Subtract 15n on both sides. (3n minus 9 equals 70. What's next? Add 9. Looks like some people are getting quicker with their solving equations. (3n 79. So how do we finish it?
divide both sides by 3.
And divide both sides by 3. 79 over 3. So that's a decimal that doesn't stop. So if you are going to write that as a decimal, then you need to make sure you write it the correct way. So the correct way, 79 over 3 is 26.3 repeating. You put 26.3, you're going to put the bar over the 3. If you forget that bar, then your answer is wrong. 3 is repeating. You have to make sure you indicate that. Questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 before we move towards closing up shop.
So do you always have
You can keep it as a fraction. If anything, I prefer to keep it as a fraction. Just make sure it's reduced. I like that question.